and got a job as an illustrator, and that's what he did for the rest of his life until he died upstairs.
Welcome to Stuck in Vermont, brought to you by 7 Days and sponsored by New England Federal Credit Union. My name's Ava Solberger, and today we're unstuck from Vermont. We're in the village of Yarmouth Port on the Cape in Massachusetts, and today we are going to explore Edward Gorey's elephant house. Ghastly, ghoulish, unsettling, creepy, macabre. Edward Gorey was one of a kind.
He referred to himself as an author, like he considered himself first an author. The umbled room is vast and white and therefore visible at night.
Today we got a personal tour with curator Gregory Hischak.
Oh, here's people who don't know we're closed on Monday. We'll just ignore them. This is a house that Edward owned from 1979 until his death. In 2000, he died upstairs. Also, the fixtures look like elephants. Also, the whole outside of the house had this elephant mottled texture. Because of that, he called the house the Elephant House. Edward had no idea that it would become a museum. The house had 7 cats, sometimes, usually 6, and had 25,000 books. Oh, that book's up in the bathroom. Oh, him! There are people of a certain age who know him from PBS Mystery. There are some people who know him just from the Anchor Doubleday paperbacks. There are some people who are younger who just know him as the illustrator of all those John Bellairs. He has 116 books of his own. And mind you, they're small books sometimes. Sometimes they're literally that big. The overall impression would be of a Viking who made a lot of clanging noises coming toward you as he entered the room. You know, he's kind of tall and imposing, and he had about 15 pounds of jewelry on him that made a lot of noise. He liked being different, and yet at the same time, it was kind of passive-aggressive. He didn't like having attention on himself. There's no dirt on the guy. You know, it's like, no, he never married. No, he never had a lover. He had very close friends. But he went through life pretty solitary emotionally. He was born in Chicago, 1925. He was not born in England in the 1800s. He was not a personal friend of Edward Lear or Lewis Carroll. Many people think that. He was born in the Midwest. He was the only child. His mom saved everything, which is why we have this ridiculous collection of toddler shoes, infant shoes, his first spoon, a locket, every drawing he ever did. When he was in high school, he was drawing guys in fur coats, from a 1920s tableau, kind of collegiate kind of thing, you know? He ended up going to Harvard, and he kind of graduated from that in 1950. He got a job in New York. Without any training at all, he became the illustrator for Anchor Doubleday. He got into the habit of wearing fur coats early in life. He walked to the New York City Ballet every day. Anything Balanchine did, he would see every performance. He did his own books, which is the reason we're really here, because in addition to all that design work, he started putting out these strange little books that were hybrids of Victorian cautionary tales and Dadaist, surrealist, Agatha Christie-ish things that booksellers didn't even know where to put them in a bookstore, you know? Are they humor? Are they an art book? Is it children's literature? No, all the children died. He has 2 cousins on his mom's side, Ski and Eleanor. The 3 of them became the deranged cousins. Edward was here every summer when he wasn't in New York, and he bought this house because of his production of Dracula, which he actually first did, and then Tucket, and it opened up on Broadway. Edward was cheated out of his Tony Award for set design. He did get a Tony Award for costume design. And with that money, the first check he got, he looked through the window here. His Ski was with him, and they went to the realtor, and he just wrote a check for the house, 80-something thousand. And he didn't even come inside. Then that they discovered that raccoons were living in the house, that it had no heat. He wasn't quite a hoarder. There was a method to his hoarding. There was a bird's nest in front of that house. That one was covered with ivy, and so he would park his car in the bushes over here, and this was the door he really used. This is about the only door he came in and out of. There's boxes of stuff everywhere. He would go to a yard sale and pick up this plate, any object that was old and decayed or rotting. He had a strong feeling for the wabi-sabi of things. He was high culture and low culture. He was just all over the place. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Murder, She Wrote, X-Files. When he was watching TV, he was mostly knitting. He was making dolls. He would set up a table at the theater and sell these dolls for $25 or something. They're worth hundreds of dollars now. He was always creating stuff. He was working in fabric. He was making ceramic pieces, putting together weird surrealist plays. He was doing a bunch of design work for every magazine you can imagine, and book covers. He was busy man. We don't know how he got through all that stuff. And then his own books. He's a very documented man who's still very enigmatic. This is Edward's kitchen. He filled it with rocks. So this room, Edward called this room the ballroom because it was just full of round things. This museum is kind of an anti-museum in a way because we play with the facts. We're not really concerned with accuracy that much. I never got to meet the man.
But you have talked to his cousin.
Yeah, and the people who worked with him, much liked, much loved by people who knew him. Now, Edward's studios is directly above us. He liked to work in very small, isolated places. He took off his rings. He used a pen handle with nibs. Mine is that.
So, did you say this was his study, or?
This is Edward's studio, which is it's very sacrilegious for how it's being treated right now. Here's little ink marks where the cats would always knock over the ink.
He probably spent hours upon hours in here.
Yeah, he did. This was Edward's TV room. His television room. TV was set up here. These were lined with record albums. The room itself was just stacked and stacked and stacked. He had his heart attack here. Rick tells the story about how Rick had showed up here that morning with a new lithium battery for his remote. He asked Rick how much he owed him for the lithium battery, and Rick told him it was $12 for that battery. And Edward clutched his chest and fell backwards onto the couch. And Rick thought he was being funny, dramatic about the $12 battery, and then realized he was having a heart attack. The Edward Gorey Charitable Trust gives money to all these animal welfare organizations, and yet it's from a man who wore fur coats most of his life.
You can come to the Edward Gorey home April 12th through December 30th here in Yarmouth Port in Massachusetts, and we will get stuck in Vermont with you again real soon. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, sign up for our weekly email alerts. Unstuck from Vermont. Every now and again, you have to get unstuck from Vermont. As wonderful as it is, you need a little bit of perspective. And I've wanted to go to the Edward Gorey house for forever. So spending an afternoon here was pretty much heaven to me.
Everyone mentions that it smelled like cat pee.
As all good houses
That's
do.
just the general. That's what I imagine the house. The overriding impression of the house was, oh my God, all this stuff, and phew, there's cats in here, aren't there?